It was the only time in history where World War II legends fought side by side with the first supersonic jets. Experience the era where the propeller met its end and the jet age began. Here's every aircraft used in the Korean War. To kick things off, here is jet fighters and interceptors. Gloucester Meteor, first British jet to see action in the conflict, mainly used for ground attack missions after encountering faster, swept-wing fighters. Next, Lockheed F-80 Shooting Star, America's primary jet fighter in the war's early months. Lieutenant Russell Brown scored history's first jet versus jet kill when he downed a MiG-15 on November 8, 1950. Mikoyan Gurevich MiG-9, early Soviet jet used primarily for training and transition, helped pilots prepare for the more advanced models that would soon dominate the skies. Republic F-84 Thunderjet flew more missions than any other fighter bomber in Korea. Struck bridges, railways, and supply depots across North Korea, though pilots called it the lead sled due to sluggish performance. Yakovlev Yak-17, small jet fighter based on earlier piston designs, saw limited service as a trainer and utility aircraft for the Communist forces. Up next, North American F-86 Sabre, American swept-wing fighter that dominated MiG Alley over the Yalu River. Skilled US pilots achieved a 10-to-1 kill ratio against Chinese and North Korean MiG-15s in intense dogfights. Mikoyan Gurevich MiG-15, Soviet jet that shocked UN forces when it appeared over Korea in November 1950. Flown by Chinese, North Korean, and secret Soviet pilots, it challenged American air superiority. Grumman F-9F Panther, US Navy's carrier jet that flew thousands of combat sorties. Future astronaut John Glenn flew this aircraft during his combat tour, completing 63 missions over Korean battlefields. McDonnell F-2H Banshee. Known for its long range and high altitude performance, this carrier jet provided vital support, often used for reconnaissance and escort missions. Now this is the Douglas F-3D Skynight, specialized night fighter equipped with advanced radar. Very effective at intercepting enemy aircraft under the cover of darkness. Now this is the Lockheed F-94 Starfire, first all-weather interceptor used by the Air Force in Korea. Used its radar and afterburner to hunt enemy bombers at night. Continuing with piston-engine fighters and attack, Vought F-4U Corsair, Marine Corps legend that excelled at close air support missions. Its devastating firepower and bomb-carrying ability helped stem the North Korean invasion during desperate summer 1950 fighting at Pusan. Now this is the North American F-51 Mustang, World War II veteran recalled for ground attack duty. South African, Australian, and American pilots flew these at low level, suffering heavy losses to ground fire during missions. Yakovlev Yak-7, older piston fighter seeing limited use in the early stages, mainly used for training or as a secondary interceptor. Fairey Firefly, British carrier plane used for reconnaissance and anti-submarine patrols, played a vital role in monitoring the coastal waters. The next one, Supermarine Seafire, naval version of the famous Spitfire serving on British carriers, used for fleet defense and spotting for naval gunfire. Now this is the Grumman F-6F 5K Hellcat, used as radio-controlled flying bombs, loaded with explosives and guided into high-value targets like bridges and tunnels. Yakovlev Yak-9P, most advanced piston fighter used by the North Korean Air Force, a dangerous opponent during the very first days of the invasion. Yakovlev Yak-3, light and agile fighter used in small numbers, known for its excellent handling at lower altitudes. Grumman F-7F Tiger Cat, powerful twin-engine fighter serving as a night interceptor. Speed and heavy armament made it a formidable hunter in the dark. Lavochkin La-7, high-performance Soviet fighter used for air defense. One of the fastest piston-engine planes of the era. Hawker Sea Fury, British carrier fighter that achieved the impossible. Royal Navy Lieutenant Peter Carmichael shot down a MiG-15 jet while flying this piston-engine plane during August 1952 combat over Korea. Next, North American F-82 Twin Mustang. Unique twin-fuselage fighter scored the war's very first air victory. Lieutenant William Hudson shot down a North Korean Yak-11 on June 27, 1950, just 2 days after invasion began. Lavochkin La-9, modern Soviet fighter with all-metal construction, used to challenge United Nations aircraft before the arrival of the jets. Lavochkin La-11, long-range escort fighter. Often used to protect bombers and transport planes from interceptors. Vought AU-1 Corsair, specialized version of the Corsair, built specifically for ground attack. Featured extra armor to protect the pilot from ground fire. Moving on to bombers and dedicated attack. Boeing B-17 Flying Fortress. Famous heavy bomber, mostly used for search and rescue. Carried a lifeboat under its belly to drop to downed airmen at sea. The next one, Tupolev Tu-2, twin-engine Soviet bomber used for tactical strikes. Fast and could carry significant bomb loads against frontline positions. Boeing B-29 Superfortress conducted devastating strategic bombing raids against North Korean cities and infrastructure. After heavy losses to MiG-15s, switched to safer nighttime missions to avoid jet interceptors over Pyongyang. Douglas B-26 Invader flew dangerous night interdiction missions along the roads of North Korea. Hunted convoys and supply trucks moving under darkness, disrupting communist logistics throughout the 3-year conflict. Ilyushin Il-10 Sturmovik, heavily armored Soviet ground attack plane that devastated South Korean forces in June 1950. Its low-level attacks helped North Korean tanks push toward Busan before UN air power arrived. Douglas AD Skyraider, Navy and Marine Corps workhorse that could carry 8,000 pounds of ordnance, provided crucial close air support during the Incheon landing and Chosin Reservoir battles throughout the war. The next one, Convair B-36 Peacemaker, massive bomber never dropping a bomb in Korea. However, it served as a powerful nuclear deterrent and was used for high-altitude transport. Up next, North American B-45 Tornado, first jet bomber used by the United States. Performed critical reconnaissance missions over enemy territory. Boeing B-50 Superfortress, upgraded version of the B-29 with more powerful engines. Served in a strategic role and provided long-range reconnaissance. Boeing B-47 Stratojet, swept-wing jet bomber beginning its service during the war years, used for high-altitude photography and intelligence gathering. North American AJ-1 Savage, heavy carrier-based bomber designed to carry nuclear weapons. Used 2 piston engines and 1 jet engine for extra speed. Now let's look at transport and cargo aircraft. Curtiss C-46 Commando, large transport plane moving troops and supplies across rugged Korean terrain. Known for its ability to carry heavy loads, Tachikawa Kai-54, captured Japanese transport used for utility and training. Saw very limited use during the chaotic early days of the conflict. Douglas C-47 Skytrain, essential transport flying between Japan and Korea daily. Evacuated 300,000 wounded soldiers during the war, while also delivering ammunition, food, and reinforcements to frontline airstrips under fire. The next one, Douglas C-54 Skymaster, 4-engine transport, primary long-distance hauler, maintained the air bridge between Japan and the Korean peninsula. Lockheed C-121 Constellation, elegant aircraft used for long-range transport and medical evacuation, also used as a command and control platform. Then Fairchild C-82 Packet, twin-boom cargo plane, predecessor to later famous airlifters, used to transport large equipment and paratroopers. The next one, Boeing KC-97 Stratofreighter, early aerial tanker allowing jets to stay in the air longer, provided the fuel needed for long-range combat missions. Bristol Freighter, British transport with large nose doors for easy loading, used by Commonwealth forces for logistical support. Now this is the Ilyushin Il-12, standard Soviet transport used by North Korean and Chinese forces. Moved personnel and vital supplies to the front lines. Handley Page Hastings, main long-range transport for the Royal Air Force. Carried troops and supplies from bases across the world to the theatre. Up next, Canadair North Star, Canadian transport using loud but powerful engines. Essential for moving personnel and cargo across the Pacific. Now this is the Fairchild C-119 flying boxcar. Dropped supplies to surrounded UN forces during critical battles. Made heroic supply drops to Marines trapped at Chosin Reservoir in December 1950, enabling their fighting withdrawal through Chinese lines. Vickers Valletta, twin-engine British transport used for short-range utility and training. Provided reliable support for the Royal Air Force. Douglas C-118 Liftmaster, military version of a popular airliner, used for high-priority transport and carrying wounded troops to safety. Antonov AN-2, biplane transport, slow but could land almost anywhere. Used for night harassment missions because it was so hard to detect. The next one, Douglas C-124 Globemaster II, known as Old Shaky. This massive plane could carry tanks and heavy artillery, revolutionized the way heavy equipment was moved by air. Next on the list is Liaison, Observation and Training, Polikarpov Po-2, ancient wooden biplane used for harassment raids by North Koreans. Nicknamed Bedcheck Charlie, these slow planes dropped small bombs at night, keeping exhausted UN troops awake and demoralized. North American T-6 Texan, propeller trainer converted into Mosquito forward air controller. Pilots flew dangerously low, marking enemy positions with smoke rockets, guiding jet fighters onto communist targets across Korean mountainsides. Tachikawa Ki-9, old Japanese biplane used for training, saw very limited use by North Korean forces in the early months. Now this is the Beechcraft SNB-5, small twin-engine plane used for training and light transport. Provided reliable way to move officers and small cargo. The next one, Piper L-4 Grasshopper, tiny plane used for spotting artillery fire. Flew right over the front lines to direct shells onto enemy positions. Stinson L-5 Sentinel, rugged liaison plane, used for medical evacuation and carrying messages. Could operate from very short and unpaved runways. Stinson L-13, folding wing aircraft designed for easy transport. Served in an observation and liaison role throughout the conflict. Auster AOP-6, British observation plane used to direct artillery fire. Very maneuverable and difficult for enemy fighters to catch at low speeds. Yakovlev Yak-11, high-performance trainer for the Communist Air Forces. Prepared pilots for the more advanced fighter aircraft. Next, Ryan L-17 Navion, small transport used for moving commanders and important documents. Civilian design made it easy to fly and maintain. Next, Yakovlev Yak-18, primary trainer, used to teach the basics of flight. Simple and reliable aircraft used by many communist nations. De Havilland L-20 Beaver, bush plane, perfect for the rough Korean landscape. Could take off from tiny clearings to deliver supplies to isolated units. The next one, Cessna L-19 Bird Dog, primary observation plane for the Army. Spent countless hours over the battlefield looking for enemy movements. Next, Beechcraft L-23 Seminole, twin-engine, light transport offering more safety and range. Used for staff transport and liaison duties between headquarters. Now let's look at maritime patrol and sea rescue. Consolidated PBY Catalina, famous flying boat used for air-sea rescue. Saved many pilots who had been shot down over the cold ocean waters. Next, Short Sunderland, large British flying boat patrolling the seas for submarines. Also used for long-range search and rescue missions. Martin PBM-5 Mariner, big patrol plane used to keep the shipping lanes clear. Could stay in the air for many hours, searching for enemy ships. Consolidated PB-4Y2 Privateer, naval version of the B-24 bomber. Used for electronic intelligence and long-range maritime patrols. Supermarine Sea Otter, biplane amphibian, the last of its kind. Used for rescue and utility work by the Royal Navy. Lockheed P-2V Neptune, long-range patrol plane used for anti-submarine warfare. Monitored the coasts and provided intelligence on enemy shipping. Then, Grumman AF-2SW Guardian, aircraft working in pairs to find and destroy submarines. One carried the radar to find the target, the other carried weapons. Up next, Grumman SA-16 Albatross, amphibious rescue aircraft that landed in frigid Korean waters. Rescued dozens of downed pilots from the Yellow Sea and Sea of Japan, often under enemy fire near coastlines. Then, Martin P5M-1 Marlin, large flying boat featuring specialized hull for better water handling, used for anti-submarine patrols late in the war. Beriev B-6, Soviet flying boat used for maritime patrol and bombing, large and capable aircraft for coastal defense operations. Finishing off with helicopters, Sikorsky H-5, revolutionary helicopter that pioneered combat medical evacuation, saved thousands of lives by flying wounded Marines and soldiers directly from battlefields to mobile Army surgical hospitals within minutes. Bell H-13 Sioux, iconic medevac helicopter, with wounded strapped to external litters, became symbol of Korean War mercy missions, dramatically improving survival rates by rushing casualties to MASH units for treatment. Sikorsky H-05S1, small helicopter used by the Marines for observation and rescue, very maneuverable and could land in very tight spots. Up next, Piasecki HUP-12 Retriever, tandem rotor helicopter serving on Navy ships. Used for plane guard duties and moving supplies between vessels. Sikorsky H-19 Chickasaw, first true transport helicopter. Could carry a squad of soldiers, changing the way infantry were moved on the battlefield.